getting a bit of a later start in day 4. I ended up not being able to fall asleep last night until around 2-3 a.m. And then a few hours later, I ended up waking up because I started getting into some sort of a coughing fit and couldn't fall back asleep for like another hour. So I snoozed my alarm this morning and skipped breakfast and got up around a little after 9 a.m. So double bar on the first draft of this second scene for this opera. Now I'm going to do a mock-up of the audio for the composer and then work on the second scene and hopefully knock out a whole lot of that today. Here's the Reaper session. There's one section that's over here where the music isn't notated. It's just use a ratchet and follow along with the text. And I emulated that with a ratchet sample that I found online just to make it easier for the composer to understand what I was going for. This is about a little under 8 minutes worth of music that I've now finished. Lunch. More of that pineapple, orange, marshmallow stuff. Some tomato and onion side, and a salad that has turkey bacon on it, and some other stuff that I don't know, but it looks tasty. I'm currently averaging about 2 to 2.5 LaCroix a day. I think I need to slow down on that stuff. So dinner tonight was very New Orleans influenced. There was fried chicken and like a Creole green beans. There was fried frog legs and then a white chocolate bread pudding for dessert. And there were a couple of other things too, like your typical salads and whatever. It was pretty good. It's not as good as what you can get out of New Orleans, but I'm not going to be too picky about it. There were 2 residents that opened up their studios, and I got a chance to go in and see their work, which was phenomenal, inspiring, and getting to know their creative process and how they came up with their work. One of the residents was saying goodbye because it was her last day here, and she's leaving probably right now, actually, to go home. And as a bookend, I guess, to her time, she shared a 1.5-minute video that showcased one of her works that she did in collaboration with a sound artist that is in a museum installation for a year. That was very powerful, very well crafted. It just lends itself to the overall atmosphere of creative discourse. Despite the fact that we have different creative perspectives and even creative disciplines, that we're all coming together to find inspiration and use the impetus of this space to create our best work. It's a little after 11. I've gone a little crazy with notes and time signatures with my concept for this one so far. We're going to call this end of day 4 and head to bed. It's Friday morning, about 9:30. I've decided to just embrace the fact that I'm always going to get up a little bit later. I even went to bed pretty early last night. It was maybe midnight 15, midnight 30. And I got about 8 hours of sleep, which is not usual for me. I'm more of a 6-hour kind of person in general. I feel pretty alert and raring to go on the second scene for the opera today. It's also really cold today. It's been cold the past couple of days with lows in the upper 20s, lower 30s, and highs in the 50s. And that's a contrast to the day maybe Wednesday or Tuesday where it was mostly in the mid 60s. It's also supposed to rain sometime around 5-6 o'clock. So it's going to be freezing rain today. never really looked that closely at this artwork before, but I've decided that I really like it. That central figure there. It's just before noon, and I'm a good way through this scene where I've written a whole lot of notes that is going to have to be memorized. There is a bunch of large repeated sections that towards the end just have a little bit of variation. So I think once you get familiar with the language of the material, it'll be okay. We'll see what Felicity says about it. Writing this has been very different from the first scene because the tone of the first scene is a lot more where a direct association between stuff that's happening in the text versus what I'm doing from gestures. Whereas in this scene that I'm writing now, this is done almost entirely seemingly independent of the actual text, except for certain check marks of text that have, to me, a little bit extra gravitas. I'm going to take a lunch break right now, and then in the early afternoon, I'm going to be doing a errand trip with one of my fellows who doesn't have a car and asked if I'd be willing to drive her around. And since I had to do my own stuff then, I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. Wow. At some point today in the morning, they cleaned my room and did a little bit of house service, and I wish I had known that they were going to do that, because then I would have been a little bit less of a slob in here and made sure that things were actually picked up. But I appreciated it, and now I know better for next time. So I decided that if Smoking Ed Curry, Chili Klaus, Sean Evans, and others can eat Reapers and Pepper X and all that, then I can certainly start eating jalapenos. So I bought a jalapeno, and I'm going to eat it. It's about 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and I'm just coming back to the studio to do some more work. My voice is a little shot because earlier tonight I led a group sound experiment. First thing that we did was we breathed as a group and just put ourselves into a frame of mind, kind of similar to what I've done with my marching band when they're about to do a final rep after a long day. And the second thing we did was we did rhythmic chanting, where I had a metronome with drumsticks going on and just let people express sound syllables with every click or decide to do something different. Eventually, I took the click away because there was a lot of good energy of people just generating their own sounds. And then I also interrupted it at some point to say, hey, like a new music performance, you can react to each other and see where we can go collectively as a group and see who departs from that and all that. And it turned out to be some pretty interesting things that came out of that. And the third thing was a very big yell about taking anything that is very negative in your life and expressing it through loud yelling, which is why everybody's voice actually had gotten really hoarse, because there's a lot of negative energy that people needed to release. And the last thing was just making noise of cheering and applauding at things that have been going well. So I had individuals say, hey, what's going great in your life right now? And we're just going to give you some measure of applause. I'm pretty happy with how it went. I think that everybody found it interesting and valuable. It's just before 11 p.m. and I have finished this scene. This is now, at least for a first draft, this is now a double bar. I've noticed a couple of typos, notation-wise, but I'm not going to worry about that right now since it's probably going to get revised anyway after Felicity gets a hold of it. I feel good about finishing these scenes up in basically 4.5 days, and I think that bodes well for me really getting a lot of stuff done in Sonic class. It's a little wild to me that I've been here now for 5 days. In a good way. It is a lovely Saturday morning. Birds are chirping. I think a majority of my day is going to be spent on taking the bee sounds that I have samples of and just getting to know them inside and out. And then also refamiliarizing myself with Ableton Live, because I want to use that and use some of Live's capabilities in the work. But it's been several years since I've really dived into Live. There's all sorts of bugs around today. You can see them on my window too, although it's a little bit hard in the video to see the 10 to 12 ladybugs that are, oh, there we go. I think it's a lighting issue. The 10 to 12 ladybugs that are just occupying the space over in my window. So a while back, I bookmarked a whole bunch of bee sounds from Freesound. And a few months ago, I started to download the ones that I thought that I could use for material. This one in particular from Felix Bloom, he actually captured a bee and let it roam around a sound studio. That one is really nice and clean, and I think I'm going to be leveraging on that one a lot to create some interesting material. I also have, let's see what else I have going on here. Something a bit more percussive. A bit of a swarm. And 7 minutes of this swarm, so we'll see how this piece evolves and how I can use that. So I saw this Parkway Toyota on one of the other residents' cars that's parked here, and I reflexively thought, wait, Parkway Bakery sells Toyotas? Neat little arbor area. And then also, if I walk around here, there's this. Little water pump and waterfall. So it's a little after 2 p.m. and it has turned into an absolutely gorgeous day. So I thought I would take advantage of the weather, since all I'm doing is researching sound and listening to a bunch of bees and getting familiar with the bee sounds, that I would explore the hiking trail that is associated with this property. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this trail, but at some point, if I find some interesting sounds, nature sounds or other sounds, then I'm going to stop and record them. I've got my backpack that has my H6. I've got a little bit of bread and some granola, some water and a LaCroix. Small little bridge to cross here. And some blue paint markers. Some water flowing. And down around the bridge. So this trail is pretty close to the highway. Unlike the other side, which has some local traffic stuff, but it's a lot more isolated here. I think any nature sounds are always going to be interrupted by highway sounds. That's not necessarily a negative thing, but since I've already done Fast-Paced World, which is all about car noise, I don't necessarily need that anymore. Although where I am right now, it's the sound has really good acoustics. I'm getting good reverb because of the distance and where I am in relating to those car sounds. So it's too bad. That's neat. Now I've got a bit of a choose your own adventure. I've got a blue path, which is continuing in this direction, where I've got a yellow path, which is over this little bridge. I think maybe today we're going to use maze principles and make a right turn and go yellow path. I'm on my way back to the VCCA property. I didn't end up going all the way through the yellow trail. They need to do some leaf raking maintenance, and for some of the yellow trail there were some up and down areas that were a little slippery with leaves, and the area that I was going to have to go down to continue the yellow trail was a pretty steep area, and since that was also overgrown with leaves, I didn't feel like risking slipping or having trouble trying to get back. So I turned around. I've been out here for probably 45 minutes to an hour-ish or so. While I was on this break, I also wanted to share a little story that I was given this as a gift, which is a small little homemade book of a blank notebook that was given to me by one of the residents, Anne, who is a poet / writer, and she gave this to me as a thanks for the sound experiment group thing that I put on yesterday. As I put my lunch tray away, I ended up talking to both Anne and another resident who just showed up yesterday, so I don't know her name, but they were both very complimentary about the sound thing that I did. I'm not one for using paper to jot down notes all that often, but it's something that I know that I'm going to hold on to for sentimental value as a keepsake for this place and how great it's been so far. So this fence is pretty extensive all the way through this property, and I don't know that I feel like hopping the fence in order to try to get closer to the freight train tracks from here, especially because I can't really tell from here how big of a dip this thing goes. So I did find this break in the fence that just has a hook on it that I could undo. I don't know that I want to do that without asking somebody, so I might shoot an email to Sheila and see if there are any objections to me making my way down there. You can see that Anthony's light is still on over there. He typically, after dinner, comes back and works for a little while. I think he usually ends by 10 p.m. maybe? I don't really know. I've never noticed when he's left. I just know that when I'm ready to leave, his light is out. So it's about 8:45 p.m. Came back to the studio. I just got done hanging out with a bunch of residents, 3 of which are leaving today. This was their last day. One of them, Anne, was after I went to the office and met Sheila and picked up my stuff. Anne was the first one that I met, who saw me walking to the studio area and said hello, and I got to know who she was. It's sad to see her go. And then second one is Perlin, who I also got to know a little bit more. She's the one that used to be in the color guard and recognized the Rhythm X t-shirt that I had on, and she is now also leaving. And the third one was one of the 2 people that did one of the readings the other day, Amy, and she's leaving too. There's even been some other people that came in the same time as I did and left either today or yesterday. We're only here for a week. And the transient nature of this, I think I've said this already, but the transient nature is interesting. It's sad because I really don't want to see these people go because I feel like I just got to know them. But I also know that there are other people that are going to be coming in, and I get to forge some sort of connection with some of them as well. It's kind of a bittersweet thing to have this be such a brief touchstone for these residencies. It's really nice to be able to collectively get to know people here and to immediately feel like we have some sort of bond as being a part of this community and supportive community. It's pretty great. So I listened to the bee samples that I had in my ear for probably an hour and a half to 2 hours through the afternoon and in the evening. I still want to listen to it more and focus on it more because sometimes I had it on just in the background and wasn't completely focused on it. I do already know that there's a couple of them that I'm not going to use because they're either too short or they aren't really useful for what I want to do. So I may go and try to find other ones, but I think I want to start at least with the ones that I know are good that I want to use and see what happens from there. Tomorrow I may come and do a bunch of work, but the other thing that I may do is, it's because the weather is supposed to be pretty nice, I may do see if I can hop that gate and go down and just spend the day maybe doing some work, but making sure that I can capture good field recordings of the freight train that goes by. So we'll see how it all goes.